Over the weekend, the libertarian-leaning Koch network hosted a Rocky Mountain retreat for donors and political leaders. Well, they used the occasion not to amplify and cheer the president's policies, but to decry them. 82-year-old Charles Koch has taken the reins of the network. He released this video in advance of the retreat. Now, he claims opportunities in the global marketplace are creating anxiety and the loss of jobs at home.
In response, we're seeing a rise in protectionism, where countries, organizations, and individuals are trying to protect themselves from these changes. They're doing whatever they can to close themselves off from the new, hold onto the past, and prevent change. This is a natural tendency, but it's a destructive one.
Destructive? Let me tell you about destruction, sir. One could also make the argument that selling out American workers and offering up our industries and our marketplace to the gods of globalism is also pretty destructive. Now, the Kochs have become billionaires by building and buying amazing companies. They're really smart guys, from steel and lumber and nylon manufacturers. Over the last 20 years, they have grown their wealth by focusing in large part on global operations. And some of that includes outsourcing jobs and relocating plants overseas. Today, Koch has a presence in 50 countries. They employ nearly 120,000 people. Only 65,000 of those people are in the United States. Now, look, God bless them. But America shouldn't be facilitating the outsourcing of jobs either through really lame policy, like regulation, or through poorly negotiated trade deals. Now, don't get me wrong, the Kochs have done some great work on tax reform, on stuff like deregulation, and also in the area of education. Last year, they spent $90 million on university programs, and they're committed to expanding their support for K-12 education. But I have a question for you. How effective will their education efforts be if Americans enter a world where China dominates most major industries, including the areas of STEM, science, technology, and so forth, including things like artificial intelligence? We can't just look the other way while China, and a lot of other countries, by the way, game the global trading system and rack up huge trade surpluses. Also, of course, IP, theft, unfair subsidies, and so forth. Any fair-minded person would have to agree now with what the White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow, a free trader himself, said over the weekend.
People say, well, President Trump's tariffs are damaging this, that, and the other thing. I say, don't blame President Trump. He inherited a completely broken world trading system, including a World Trade Organization, most particularly China, but not only China, okay? He's trying to fix it.
Now, remember, the Kochs supported that job and sovereignty-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership and the NAFTA agreement that both, of course, Bush, Obama, and until the campaign, at least, Hillary championed. The Koch network, like the rest of the GOP old guard, is positively furious with Trump's use of tariffs to level the playing field. In fact, they announced last month that they've committed to a multi-million-dollar, multi-year campaign to oppose what Trump's doing on trade. I have a question, though. Why would they want to lock us into these never-ending trade deficits when the president's efforts so far are actually bearing fruit? We saw what happened with the EU last week. South Korea already renegotiated their deal. And watch what happens in the next few weeks with both Mexico and China. It's going to be really good. Meanwhile, American workers and even farmers, some of them have been caught in the crossfire of Trump's tough trade battle with China. But they're standing by the president. Why? Well, I think that's kind of why would they? Well, they like that he's fighting for them, even if it hurts their interests in the short term.
I'm a good American. I believe that we all have to toe the line.
So you're okay with bearing the brunt of these tariffs?
Am I willing to take my lumps for the better, for the benefit of the entire country? Yes, I personally am.
You're willing to weather the storm for a certain amount of time, but how long is too long?
Well, the Scottish in me says to the death.
Oh, Scottish in him. I love that. Well, don't you want that kind of deep sense of patriotism. They want to make money, obviously, but they're also deeply patriotic Americans, and they're willing to take that hit. I think the Kochs can learn a lot from those regular Americans and what they said this year. I love that tape. Trump's immigration plan, by the way, also displeases the old guard in the GOP, that big Republican donor class. Now, why? Why are they so fixated on that? Because they love the flood of cheap labor into our market. But Trump sees the border and enforcement and the whole deal at our southwest border very differently, and he articulated it today.
Our countries have learned through hard experience that border security is national security. They are one and the same.
Arguments of national security and culture are totally lost on the billionaire set. But for most Americans, these are major concerns. Now, the Koch network is taking it a step further. They're now going so far as to financially punish some politicians who are supportive of the president's agenda. They announced today that they will not be supporting GOP's North Dakota Senate candidate, Kevin Cramer, who's trying to unseat Democrat Heidi Heitkamp. Now, what's the Koch reason for that? Well, the Republican candidates supported Trump on both trade and immigration. At that confab I was mentioning earlier in Colorado, Charles Koch made a big deal about, quote, uniting people who were previously divided. But what does that mean? Like, how are these latest retaliatory efforts actually doing that? Trump is the one uniting people. For all the talk of divisiveness, Trump enjoys an 88% approval rating among Republicans, according to the Wall Street Journal, an NBC poll. Only George W. Bush in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 saw support like that. But the Koch network and others talk a good game about unity, embracing change, and seizing opportunities. But when a president comes along who's actually embracing a new path, something different, on behalf of the American people, let's try a new thing now. The Kochs and the globalists just have their blinders on. They won't have any of it. I had to laugh when in the AP feature on the Koch retreat, it said the following. Democrats who invested extraordinary time and resources into attacking the Koch brothers in recent years conclude that, at least in the area of Trump, the billionaire industrialists are no longer the left's number one enemy. Oh, yeah. That's funny how that works. That's because Republicans lacked a leader for so many years that the Kochs were the only game in town. But now the left has a new enemy. It's Trump. And they're resisting him at every turn. Sadly, the Kochs are too often joining in their ranks. Like the Bushes, the Koch brothers did not support Donald Trump in 2016. Think about that. But they have certainly reaped the benefit of Trump's thriving economy. Are they prepared to take all their profits that they made over the last 2 years and, donate it to Elizabeth Warren? Because that's going to be great for their businesses? Do you think they're going to actually give them a better deal on the things that they believe in, tax reform, regulation, so forth? What a pity if the Kochs and their well-heeled donors miss the opportunity to support the president and be a part of the America First unity that people believe in. And that's the angle.